What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Now, I want to talk about a story, an update to a story I did a couple of weeks ago. And it's about this woman up here that you see. Her name is Kendra Rogers. She gets full respect from me. This woman, if you guys remember the story, is a Corsicana assistant principal at an intermediate school out there, and in Corsicana, Texas, by the way, shout out. This woman had to be airlifted from her school after a brief interaction with a student. That's what they're calling it. Well, this morning, she had a press conference, which I will show you. It's 10 minutes long. And it has a lot of information, especially for you teachers out there. And she talks about the situation, what she went through, and what really happened. Guys, if you're teachers out there or any kind of educators and you're dealing with children that have behavioral issues or something like this, this is a video you might want to pay attention to. This woman's lucky she's alive. Take a look.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank you to Corsicana ISD for allowing me to use this space. Please understand that what I'm going to say today are my words. This is not coming from Corsicana ISD. First, thank you all from the depths of my heart for all of your prayers. They have given me and my family strength during these very difficult and trying times. Thank you for all the meals, the cards, the ways you have assisted us financially, and everything else you've done. And I'm so very, very grateful. I will be reading a short statement, but I will not be taking any questions. On Thursday, August 15th, during lunch, I heard our behavioral teacher call on the radio to administrators for assistance. When I arrived, the teacher and students were outside the classroom. One student was holding his head, having been assaulted by the student remaining in the classroom. I entered where the student was still irate and found the room ransacked with overturned furniture. I knew I had to be as calm as possible, and I spoke lowly and slowly so as not to enrage him any further. He picked up a chair and acted as if he would throw it. He finally did throw it at me, but I caught it midair. He picked up another chair to throw at me when another assistant principal entered the room. I used the first chair to block the second. He picked up a third and threw it at the other assistant principal, and I used that initial chair to block the one that he threw at her. After blocking the chair thrown at the other assistant principal, he threw a wooden hanger at me, but I couldn't stop it fast enough. The hanger hit me in my right eye and knocked it out of the socket. I grabbed my face while blood was pouring out of my head and stumbled out of the classroom door. The nurse and 911 were called. I asked for my cell phone to call my husband to come get me, not realizing the extent of the damage. When paramedics arrived, they determined I would need to be airlifted to Parkland Medical Center in Dallas. I underwent surgery as soon as possible, and doctors were able to reinsert my eye. However, they determined I had been blinded and currently believe that my damage is permanent. I will have to have an additional surgery to repair my eyelid because doctors are believing, oh, I'm so sorry. I underwent surgery as soon as possible, and doctors were able to reinsert my eye. However, they determined that I've been blinded, and they currently believe that my damage is permanent. I will have to have an additional surgery to repair my eyelid, and because doctors are believing my blindness to be permanent, removing my eye may have to be an option. I'm still believing God for a miracle for restoration of my sight. My teaching career began here in Corsicana. This tragedy affected not just my husband, my children, my grandchild, my family, and my friends, but it has also negatively affected my school, my district, and my community. Because of the numerous districts in which my husband and I have worked and the thousands of students I've taught, the impact of my injury It's far-reaching. Chapter 37 of our Texas Education Code, which was originally created in 1995 to help protect our marginalized students with regard to how students are disciplined, may need to be reevaluated so that no paraprofessional, no teacher, or principal, simply put, no educator should ever be put in this situation. I fully understand education laws and the need for students to be educated with their peers. Chapter 37 may need to incorporate changes to address the mental, social, and emotional well-being of these students. As educators, we care about our students and their safety, but we must also care about the safety of our educational staff. Our safety is important too. We should never have to fear being in a classroom with an aggressive student. Everyone's protection is paramount. Overly aggressive students need services to meet their needs, but I do not believe the safety of other students and the educational staff should suffer. Lastly, Governor Greg Abbott holds some accountability in the safety of our students and our staff. For years, our schools have suffered unfunded mandates, which have included pay raises. Our basic allotment, which funds our day-to-day expenses, have not increased since 2019, even though we have had rising costs on absolutely everything, including new unfunded mandates. This is 2024. I'd like to quote a friend who gave me permission to use their words. Quote, "If our students don't have what they need to be successful in Texas, this is not simply problematic. I hold that it is immoral. Texas has the 9th largest economy in the world, not the country, the world. Texas has over a $32 billion budget surplus, yet we spend the 8th least in terms of allotment per student in the U.S. Regardless of what you believe this says about our priorities as a state, this is a choice, and choices have consequences. Article 7, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution states a general diffusion of knowledge being essential to the preservation of the liberties and rights of the people. It shall be the duty of the legislature of the state to establish and make suitable provision for the support and maintenance of an efficient system of public free schools. I would argue that for Texas public schools in 2024 to be funded at 2019 levels is unsuitable provision, to say the least. To that end, I believe the state legislature bears some degree of culpability when our schools, our public schools, struggle due to improper funding. Article 7, Section 3A of the Texas Constitution states, 1/4 of the revenue derived from the state occupation taxes shall be set apart annually for the benefit of the public free schools. Without delving too deeply into the proverbial weeds, allow me to simply remind you of an earlier point. The state of Texas has a $32 billion surplus. I'm not a mathematician, but to have that abysmal level of spending in a booming state economy with a $32 billion surplus simply does not add up. Simply stated, Texas is vastly underfunded. According to a study conducted by the Kinder Institute, 73% of our Texas public school districts are underfunded. When schools are underfunded, all stakeholders suffer. It is important to point out that the decision to continue funding Texas public schools at 2019 levels in 2024 is a choice, and the collateral damage of Governor Abbott's choices include, but are not limited to, academic struggles, student discipline struggles, teacher retention challenges, stifled program advancements, loss of student enrichment programs, lessening of needed student supports, erosion of parent and external stakeholder trust, decreased student engagement, end quote. To date, Governor Abbott has failed to release these funds because his political priority is school choice. And it seems he prefers to perpetuate a system of the haves and have-nots. People fail to realize that public schools are required to accept any student, regardless of abilities. Private schools are not, and do not. Public schools are required to have certified teachers. Private schools are not. Public schools are required to undergo state mandated testing. Private schools are not. These are just a few of the inequities. By further decreasing funds from public schools, which are already grossly underfunded, as though those of us in education already know, to give to those who can already afford to send their children to private schools is simply wrong. It's wrong to have so many mandates that make educating our public school children more difficult. It's wrong to take money from grossly underfunded schools. I've been in education for 30 years, and I am a proud product of public schools. I believe in public school education, but what happened to me should never happen to another educator. Mr. Abbott, release the funds because you are also culpable for what happened to me. Thank you for your time.
Guys, there you heard the testimony of Miss Kendra Rogers. Still has more surgeries to go. Had her eye knocked out her head with a wooden hanger. Knocked it out of the socket. Can you imagine the horror of people having to see that? The school nurse reaction when she first runs up and sees that. They had to airlift the woman because she was bleeding really bad. Said the room was ransacked. Said the child went into some type of tantrum or some type of physical tirade. Now, after doing the first video, I figured, I'm like, this might be a special needs child. Evidently it was. And she said behavioral and violent, issues. But she did say one thing. She said staff protection needs to be paramount. Now, supposedly, this is I think it goes up to 8th grade, I think. They're not saying anything about this child, who he was, how old he was. And you notice she said, I'm not going to answer questions from the media. I think a big lawsuit's coming, and she knows she's just going to say, okay, hey, I'm here. This is what has to happen in the future with my injury, and this is what happened. I don't know, but I do know this. When the boy that did this, he was released to his parents that night after, and suspended. So I don't know how old he is or what he was dealing with, but she's talking about a lot of failures of where this could have been prevented. And I totally agree with her. She brought up Texas with their booming economy and they're underfunded. I work in schools sometimes, with me doing aquariums and stuff, and I see that the funding's off. Sometimes I might get a 1-year contract rather than a 5-year contract and lose that part of business. Just how it happens. And you had a budget. The budget is the budget. And like she said, the budget, though it might increase a little bit every year, the funding coming in negates how much the budget could be spent, thus retarding the spending budget itself. They need to have more police or something in schools. I mean, especially with this rash of school shootings and just violence. It's like nowadays, elementary school is like a prison or a reform school somewhat. It's like you never know what you're going to walk into or what type of day your students are having at home for them to come in there and then act up in school. And that's the dangerous part. We shouldn't be scared of children. Heard what she said? We shouldn't fear our students. We should want to come in here and do this. Just seeing that woman like that, man, is upsetting to see. And what she went through. It's horrific, man. I hope she makes out all right. But I mean, they said she'll never see again, most likely. This woman had went to retirement and came back because she missed it. And look what happened to her. It's something to think about, man. This is truly sad. I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are any type of educator or teacher, I said it before, I give you total respect, because dealing with kids nowadays, outside of school, let alone inside of school, is a task in itself. It takes patience and it takes a special type of person, which you guys are. I respect you. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, because I damn sure ain't got the patience to deal with that.